No, Carly, I'm telling you, it is not on that side. It's over your side over there now. All right? No,
There.
it's not
I'm
there.
pointing at it.
No, it is not
Literally
there. Okay, everybody. No.
My
Okay,
finger is
no.
on it.
No. Okay, fine. If I
Are you
swap
drunk?
us around like this, no.
Yeah,
it
and I'm
is
still
just,
pointing at it. It's there.
I'm pointing at the QR code. Help us out, people. Who is pointing at the QR code right now? My finger is touching the QR code.
Bro.
I can see it on my screen. I'm touching the QR code. Help us out, people. Clearly, our televisions are lying to us. That's the QR code. Thank you.
It's there. I'm pointing at it.
The QR code, everyone is saying Topher is right. Topher is always right.
Yeah,
okay?
it's not
I'm
a
sorry.
for you, but I'm pointing at it.
No, you're not. You're pointing off to the side of the screen.
Is my camera flipped?
No, your camera is correct. Like I can read the like I could read your shirt and stuff.
See, that's the problem. I can't. So I'm looking at it mirrored.
Oh.
So my shirt, when I'm looking at it, this is backwards.
Well, sorry, but that's just retarded Mac stuff. That's your fault, not mine.
Why am I looking the opposite way? I'm very confused now.
I don't care.
What
you
if
can
I
just
do
be
that?
confused or show. It's your fault for spending all the extra money on a Mac. All right?
Did I just change it? Is that different now? So now am I pointing that way?
No, it's exactly the same. Listen, we've got to move on because we could spend an hour and a half trying to sort this out, and you and your little Mac computer will fail abysmally. It just won't happen. We both know this is true.
Whatever.
Okay, well,
anyway,
what if you flip your monitor on its head? What if you turn your laptop upside down? Will that help? I didn't mean for you to actually do it.
Probably. Probably. Anyway,
right.
I have indigestion because I just shoved a steak down my throat, and now I'm
amazed you weren't just eating homemade sourdough. Amanda, our number one fan, is already on it. She's loving the show. Thank you, Amanda, number one fan. We really appreciate it.
Like Amanda deserves an award. She might get our first award for the most diligent Oddie.
I think she sets her alarm clock.
She
doesn't
just to
like
not
miss the show.
No one has put more effort into watching us every week than Amanda.
Yep.
Riot 9. Once again, Victoria proved they are the worst of us. NSN hijack. My God. While I support white pride or any nationalism, I won't support no damn socialist. And Avi, what did he think was going to happen? Guys, as you might imagine, we're going to talk about this one. There's a lot to say.
Look, we're not going to talk about it first, though. We're not going to talk about it first because there's a lot of other people that need a bit of time to be able to see the notification and get on that are going to want to hear us talk about this. I thought I might actually start by talking about something that only just came up today. I don't have a lot of information on this. I'm working on it. I am working on a video on this.
Yes, I have the notes in front of me.
Did you know our troubles are saved? We can all relax now because thank God. Apparently, India are in deep discussions with the Australian government, we are led to believe, hang on, I've lost my screens. There we go. To build 1 million houses in Australia.
And it's going to be funded by the UAE?
Funded by the UAE. So this is Middle Eastern money with Indian workers coming over to Australia to build 1 million houses. Now, this is being reported in Indian media. This is the India Times, and it's been picked up and reported pretty widely. As best as I can tell, this was the first. This was the source article, quoting union minister, which is like a government minister, like a front bencher portfolio minister type position in India. So a pretty serious thing. It's being picked up and widely reported. So I have to believe that there might be some substance to the claims being made. But it's just so ridiculous.
Today, I think it's Xi Jinping, Putin, and I'm so sorry, what is the Prime Minister of India? What's his name? They're all meeting.
Narendra Modi.
They're all together in China as we speak. So collectively, I think they represent, 3 billion people?
And honestly, like having better trade with India is a great idea. I've got no issue with that at all. But this makes no sense. This is going to piss off everyone who's concerned about immigration. It's going to piss off anyone who's concerned about houses and construction and quality of construction. It's also not going to solve the problem because here's something that's going to blow a lot of people's minds. This is another video I'm researching. I need to replicate myself. There are too many videos and not enough time. Did you know that in the last 20 years, we have built houses faster than our population has grown? The number of dwellings in Australia has increased faster than our population. So what is broken in Australia is way, way, way more fundamental than just houses per person. We are broken at a very deep level. Our productivity is being utterly destroyed, and bringing in, more workers and more capital to build more houses under the same fundamentally broken rules, because that's what it is. It's all the construction codes, the energy efficiency, the indigenous impact surveys, and is it going to affect the lesser spotted newt? All that nonsense. That's what's broken our housing. That's what's broken our cost of living. That's what's broken our productivity, because that's happened not just in the housing sector, but across every single sector. So this idea that we're just going to throw whoever's idea it was, and however much substance this has, and like I said, I haven't got to the bottom of this yet, not even close. But wherever this idea came from, this idea that, we're just going to build more houses under the same stupid, broken system. Well, I'm sorry, the numbers actually very clearly say the number of dwellings, and I know this feels wrong, this feels like it can't be true. I'm telling you it's true. The numbers back this up. We have built more dwellings. As a proportion of the dwellings we had, the number of dwellings is growing faster than our population is growing. Something else is very, very broken. And this little harebrained plan, my goodness, it's not going to solve anything.
This concerns me for a couple of reasons. One of them was, just that comment I had on the screen about the quality. I told you guys, like, we're house hunting at the moment, and a lot of them are townhouses that have been shoved onto these blocks that were originally a one-home block, and it's like a duplex, right? So what they are is they're uninhabitable. They are so pokey, and it's like, look, I understand there's a lot of regulations and red tape, but at the same time, someone's paying off these building surveyors who are coming through and going, yeah, that checks out, because they're unlivable. There's nowhere to put a bloody washing machine. There's nowhere to put a conventional size couch. And the bedrooms, you'd be lucky to get a double bed in there. And so, okay, I get it. We definitely need housing. I'm the first to agree with that. At the moment, we're pretty stressed because we've got a month. And each housing inspection we go to has, 9, 10, 11, 12 couples. And you sort of go, holy shit, like, I've been a renter for the last, 18 years. I have been in many different rental properties in my time, and I've never seen it like this. We're lucky if there's a new house added a day.
Yeah, and to those that are asking about the march and all that, we are going to get to that. We're holding off on that. There's only 433 people watching at the moment. We'll probably wait till there's 500, 600, 700 because I know there's a lot of people interested in this.
You could buy us a coffee. Where do I point? Just tell me where to point.
Just Carl's.
That's where it is on my screen. That's where it is. Bro. Okay. I will fight you. Breathe.
Just breathe.
This is my stream that you're on, and where I look, you are there.
Okay. So support on Ko-Fi. So this is that button goes to coffee, whatever, Ko-Fi, lo-fi. I'm thinking like 90s kid, like lo-fi, Ko-Fi.
Can I talk for a second?
Do I ever have a choice?
No, you don't. Yeah. I'm a woman. So guys, if you missed it last week, when it comes to super chats, we love them and we love the idea of super chats, but unbeknownst to us, Google and Apple also take a cut if you pay through your phone. So for example, like YouTube takes 30%, that's fine, YouTube's the platform, but Apple and Google Play Store will take an additional 30%, which means when you guys super chat us, as much as we love it, 60% of that's going to big tech. So, well, actually, if you want to support us,
and then 30% of what's left is 50%, and only for the idiots using Apple products. But yes, with those caveats, you're
Google
quite correct.
Play as well.
Well, yeah, but
it's
who's
Google
using
Play
that?
Store as well.
There are tumbleweeds rolling through the Google Play app.
What do you mean? What do you use on Android?
Never mind.
I'm so
you
confused.
don't have to use Google Pay. You don't have to. You can use PayPal, for example.
Yeah, but you still have to use
Yeah.
the Google Play Store. Do you?
No.
I don't know. I don't speak Android. I'm not a
This is
retard,
foreign
okay? Sorry.
concept to me because I'm not an institutionalized prisoner in my digital mind like Apple users are.
Topher, I understand you're threatened by my superiority, but you just need to shut up and appreciate that you are a pleb.
I'm threatened by so much, but your superiority is not one of those things.
But yeah, so just actually a cute little update. We'll wait for more people to jump on the stream. Topher and I have some big plans for the Oddcast, as you guys know, but these things take time. We are going to use OBS moving forward. So I have to learn that. G is also learning it because I'm going to break it. And we are going to set up a Discord server. So I don't know how to do that. I'm going to learn. And what we are hoping, Topher, feel free to correct me after I finish speaking. Don't interrupt me.
Oh, wow. Wow. Rules.
Yeah, like that. What we want to do is invite you guys to the conversation, right? So yes, we love doing the streams and we love the sound of our own voice, obviously. But you guys have got things to say as well. And I feel like comment sections on YouTube videos, they're great, but you're not there, you're not participating. Once you leave your comment, you kind of go. Discord, you're there. We can do live chats with you guys. So there's some plans in the development, but for now, this is what we have. And if you want to support us, you can buy a coffee and we'll have memberships. There is people have actually already signed up. I didn't even tell you guys about it. They've just found it. So thank you to the OG Oddies who jumped on.
And we are going to definitely need some support because Carly just found out that Rode, whose videocaster desk we are in love with, have partnered up with Canon, and you can now get PTZ controlled cameras, which is cameras that you can pan and zoom and all that stuff from the controlling desk. And now we want them.
More
because it'll be better. And so my wallet is already crying.
My wallet's been crying since the start of the year, dude.
No, your wallet ran out of tears months ago.
My wallet is on strike. It's run away from home.
Yeah,
actually, it's been stolen twice. So there's that too.
Last topic, there's that. Last topic, and then we'd better get on with March before we have a revolt on our hands. But Lord Andrew Bruce of House McInnes has asked, Topher, since you enjoy a cigar every so often, any advice for someone thinking of starting? I don't know whether I will, but I do want to try a cigar. I would suggest head over to the YouTube channel, The Cigar Professor. So just at The Cigar Professor. That's me and a mate of mine in Sydney and a couple of other guys. We import cigars. You can buy them through the Facebook page, so the Cigar Professor Facebook page. But we smoke them on the YouTube channel, and it is cigar smoking tips and education. And if you go right back to the very beginning, we've been going for about 5 years now, 4 or 5 years. If you go right back to the very beginning, the first couple of episodes and the cigars that we smoked, we were really heavy on the cigar smoking tips and techniques and sort of what to watch for and what to do. So if you're thinking about starting cigar smoking, you don't have to spend any money. Just go to the Cigar Professor YouTube channel, go back to our earliest cigars, and then if you're interested, head over to the Facebook page and send a message, and my mate up in Sydney will get that message and he'll sort you out. So there you go.
Do you remember that podcast we did with Rukshan and Senator Babette, and I lit it upside down?
Yeah, you lit the wrong end of the freaking cigar I gave you. It's
and then
in
puffed
my brain.
It once and was like, ew.
Yeah. And I still talk to you despite that. You use Apple products and you light the wrong end of cigars, and yet I'm still willing to talk to you. That's how desperate I am for friends.
I am comedic value. What can I say? I'm just here for the lols.
Yep.
Okay, so hang on, go back to Pro Engineer's comment.
Oh, I got to scroll back up. Hang on. Hang on. Let me. Yeah. No, I got it. That one.
Everyone's been putting Clippy. I'm pointing at it. I don't know where I'm pointing at on your screen, but I'm pointing at mine. Right, great, whatever. Clippy, the little icon that used to terrorize us back in the 2000s when you opened up Word and I think PowerPoint. And I was like, I thought this was some kind of weird thing that I didn't know, like an Illuminati sign. I thought people were trying to be all cool. And so I literally Googled it, and there's a guy talking about how Clippy just wanted to help you. As annoying as he wasn't trying to steal your data, and he wasn't trying to spy on you and all this sort of stuff. And I just thought it was really interesting. Lewis is a good guy. Someone said it in the chat. But yeah, this has gone mega viral, and I was like, oh, I've totally missed out on this little cultural moment. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Last thing on housing. Found Hope says, I live in northwest Sydney. There are huge tower blocks being built that have been halted for 5 years due to building code issues. They may fall down, all corporately owned. How do we fix what is so broken? Yeah. And this is where people say we need more regulation. Well, the answer to the fact that people are not building to code is not to increase the code, right? There's a different problem here.
Rip it up.
We are so many layers of brokenness that when someone comes along and says, actually, this is the real actual problem at the heart of it, everyone's so focused on the symptoms of the problems. They're like, no, it's over here. No, it's over here. We have arguments about what the real problem is. When you actually get down beneath all of these things, whether it's immigration, housing supply, inflation, cost of living, cost of energy, doesn't matter where you look, those are all the symptoms. Fundamentally, our government is way too big. It is eating up far too much of our productivity and giving us far too little in return. That is the heart of all of the problems. And one of the big reasons why builders can get away with ripping people off is because people are so desperate. There is such an undersupply. And they can get away with doing shoddy work for a long time until it really goes wrong, like it sounds like it has in the case of this building, like really properly gone wrong. They get away with all kinds of things. That's not the case in an industry where the if the buyers were in charge rather than the sellers, i.e. the builders, are the sellers. If the buyers were in charge, if there was a surplus of builders all vying for a small number of buyers or of people funding a building, they would be, the people paying the money should be the ones in charge in any healthy industry. And people, sorry, you go.
No, you go. I was going to say, I brought up site inspections multiple times. And what we're seeing here now as well, there's how do I say this delicately? I mean, we've seen what the CFMEU has done to all the major build projects and all the big infrastructure projects in Victoria. That has infiltrated to a degree into residential building. I know it's not as big, but there is definitely an underlying factor where people are getting bought off and signing off things. And we can see this, right? We know these homes aren't up to code. We know that they're going to be torn down in 10 years, but yet they're still selling for above $1 million. And if you guys watch site inspections, there's multiple videos where he goes back to, these townhouses that I keep talking about, where they're using Chinese steel that's not even compliant to Australian standards. They're cutting corners. Things aren't being, I don't know the building terms, but they're not being waterproofed correctly. All these seriously dire issues. And you think about just how difficult it is to enter the property market as a first home buyer. Imagine buying one of those lemons. You spend the next 10 years trying to fix it.
So let me put in one last point for people who might be new here or what have you. If you just let me put one thing to you to illustrate just how broken the housing industry and the housing market is. In a free market, something that is not being actively manipulated, it is not possible to have very high prices and a lack of supply for a long period of time. Right? Because if there is a lack of supply, prices will rise, and they tend to rise very quickly, disproportionately, and they create an opportunity for profit. Now, in a free market where people are able to make their decisions and spend their money or enter industries, etc., the increase in price is a signal, and people go, hey, I could make more money if I was over there doing that. Now, not everyone's going to go chasing that opportunity, but there's a percentage of people who maybe used to be builders, or they know a builder, or a builder can upscale, and they go, hey, there's money to be made here. If I'm quick, I'm going to jump in. And so that price signal becomes a problem that solves itself. The price signal means there's more profit to be made over here. People respond to that incentive. They get into that market, and then the price has to come down again because competition has met demand. So you cannot have a long-term price spike in a functioning free market. You can only have short-term price spikes. If you have a long-term price spike, which is what we've got now, it's not a long-term price spike, it's just a long-term ramping up of prices to infinity and beyond. The only way that can happen over the long term is if there is some manipulation of the market going on. And in this case, it's the government that's manipulating the market through everything from slow land release through to all the building codes and the manipulation of the whole financial sector and the funding and the loans, etc. This is non-stop manipulation of the market from start to finish. And that is why the bubble continues to grow. So unfortunately, having Indians come in and build another 1 million homes under the current system is not actually even going to fix the supply issue. And it's certainly not going to fix the affordability issue, because what we're not building right now are the bottom rungs of the ladder that we've talked about before, those entry-level homes. An entry-level home in a brand new estate now is $800,000. And that's not a crazy luxury entry-level home. That's actually just an entry-level home. Now, an $800,000 house is not unaffordable if you already own a $600,000 house. Right? You can step up to an 800 relatively easily. And a 600 is relatively affordable if you already own a $400,000 two-bedroom brick unit somewhere, right? But the problem is those things are gone. Those lower rungs on the ladder are gone. And people can't get onto the lower rungs. And what we're saying to people is, let's build more houses, but they're all going to be middle rung. We're not going to build any low. We're not going to build any of the lower. We're going to build a whole bunch more middle rung houses. Good luck jumping up and grabbing onto one of those rungs. It doesn't fix the problem.
100%. And look, I am one of these people that you're talking about. Like, I'm a first home buyer. I haven't owned a house yet. I'm almost 40. And that's, personal choices. Like, I know some people have, got started early or whatnot. I delayed it. But now I look at it and go, I need $200,000 as my deposit. And I'm also self-employed. So I've got that against me. And, my issue is I need proximity. I don't really want to live in the city, but it does need to be close enough that I can service my clients, which means that I'm buying $1 million property as my first home. That makes no sense. But I wanted to touch on this before we read the super chats. We will get to them. But I saw this comment. Apprenticeships used to be a good thing. Now, I've talked about G having an apprentice before.
Yeah.
There is a huge issue with Gen Z. We know that, and I've talked about that at length. But what I have noticed, and I feel like this, again, broad statement, but there is a real lack of people wanting to do a good job these days. Now, what I mean by that is there seems to be zero incentive to do the right thing and to do things well. Back a long time ago, when you did a good job, it actually cemented you. It meant something. You got a reputation and people appreciated that. And in a free market, if you're the best, you can command a higher price. But now, thanks to all the government regulations, all the red tape, all the issues that we have, we've taken away that desire to want to be exceptional. And now you're doing mediocre. And so a lot of these jobs, whether it's, the builder, it's the plumber, it's the brickie. Now, I'm not having a go at our trades, not by any stretch. I know our tradies work hard. But, as an apprentice, you're doing the bare minimum and you still pass. Like, I'm trying not to be rude to G's apprentice, but, at this point, it doesn't matter. He has an apprentice who just does not give a shit or does not know. We're still trying to work it out. He's meant to be third year, right? So this person is like almost ready to graduate and go off. There is no way I would let this kid change the oil in my car, let alone do the more advanced stuff. And it's not just the lack of skills. It's not because G hasn't spent friggin' hours with this kid. Like, above and beyond, like that's G's best.
G is patient to a fault. That's how he can survive you.
His best quality is also his worst quality because he's so patient and he wants him to do well. But it's like it goes in one ear, out the other. And not only that, like I'll give you an example. You get mental health leave, you get sick leave and annual leave. These kids now don't want to work. They come, they do the bare minimum, and then they go home. There's no incentive to get good at it. Now, and this is wrong for so many reasons. One, it's terrible for the business owner, obviously. But what is this teaching our kids? That you can be mediocre, that you can be crap, and you'll still get paid. And so it basically just brings the entire level down, down, down. We end up equalizing at the lowest common denominator. Now, I'm going to segue. How I've talked about my chicken in the noodle aisle thing.
Yeah.
Right. So chicken in the noodle. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, chicken in the noodle aisle is this new obsession that I have. This is what I've called it, where I go to the supermarket and I observe the laziness of people just disregarding certain products throughout the store. So I called it chicken in the noodle aisle because I was literally looking at the Asian noodle section and there was like a packet of chicken tenderloins just sitting there. And at first I used to just think it was quite comical. Now I've gone down like this full philosophical, psychological wormhole looking at what this does. And are you familiar with the shopping trolley theory?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's one of the ultimate tests of whether someone will just do something because it's the right thing to do is whether they return that shopping trolley.
Yeah, I'm going to read it out for those of you who aren't familiar. So the Sorry. The shopping cart is the ultimate litmus test for whether a person is capable of self-governing. To return the shopping cart is easy, convenient task, and one which we all recognize as the correct, appropriate thing to do. To return the shopping cart is objectively right. There are no situations other than a dire emergency in which a person is not able to return their cart. Simultaneously, it is not illegal to abandon your shopping cart. Therefore, the shopping cart presents itself as the apex example of whether a person will do what is right without being forced to do it. No one will punish you for not returning the shopping cart. No one will fine you or kill you for not returning the shopping cart. You gain nothing for returning the shopping cart. You must return the shopping cart out of the goodness of your own heart. You must return the shopping cart because it is the right thing to do, because it is correct. A person who is unable to do this is no better than an animal, an absolute savage who can only be made to do what is right by threatening them with a law and force the stands behind it. The shopping cart is what determines whether a person is a good or bad member of society. And I think that is kind of where we're at collectively. Yeah. And I think there's a couple of things going on here. And the building sector is one side of it. Have a look across the world, across Australia in general, at how undone nearly everything is, how terrible customer service is, how hard it is to get someone to return an email, how hard it is to get someone to give you a friggin' smile when you're walking past them. Something else I wanted to talk about on Wednesday, I won't co-opt this conversation, but you know, the median strips in the middle of freeways and not freeways, sorry, intersections. They're meant to be maintained by the local council.
Yeah.
As similar to my chicken in the noodle aisle, I now take photos of median strips where the weeds are like chest high. And it's a footpath. And yet the weeds are up here. And so now, like the most notorious one is the intersection. It's that horrible slip that goes down onto Queen's Road where Albert Park is in the middle of CBD. And when you're coming up the Nepean Highway, you're turning left down to Queen's Road behind Albert Park.
Yeah.
There's a big traffic island there. The weeds are this high. And they've been like that for years. And you know, people are going to be like, oh, this is such a simple thing. Why do you care? It just sets a standard. It sets a tone. It shows you how little we care about things. And there's a guy called Lawn. I've got this saved for Wednesday. Lawn something rather. And he goes around and does it. And he shows you how easy it is to clean up one of these median strips in like less than an hour.
I cannot wait to have that conversation with you, because in the comments of his videos, that is such an expose of how people think, the safetyism. The if it just saves one life kind of, you know, at some point, if you did that for, you know, if you had teams of people doing that all over Australia with no traffic control, eventually one of them would get hit by a car, right? This kind of save one life at every single cost kind of nonsense kicks in, this safetyism. No, there's a big conversation to be had out of that, because what that guy does is awesome. He just goes in there and he does videos of it, and, you know, it's kind of that ASMR.
Can we show it now since we're talking about it?
Well, no, we've promised people we're going to do the rallies. So let's save that for Wednesday. We got to get through a couple of super chats, then we got to get to the rally. All right. So Found Hope gave us an update on that building he was talking about before. It was a group of 6 high-rise apartments. Pardon me, it's been in the skyline since 2019. It's horrendous. Yeah. Unfortunately, a similar thing happened to a property over the back of someone that I know down in Melbourne. Sitting there, it's not derelict, but it's plagued. It's plagued by problems, and you know, there's people living in it who seemingly wish they hadn't moved in there. Daniel Moore, once again, the government has created the problem, just like with the illegal tobacco trade. They've created such a massive cost from the building code that builders cut corners and get away with it. That's exactly it. This is the thing. The government says, well, if it weren't for us, it'd be even worse. No. The reason why builders have to do this, and the reason why buyers have to put up with it, is because of the market distortions that have been created by the government. If the government got out of the way, then there would be enough supply that buyers could start to be choosy. Buyers would start to be in the driver's seat instead of the builders right now. So yeah, Daniel, you're absolutely spot on. Oops, sorry.
Oh, hang on, sorry, 2 seconds. Deaf black fella, I'm so sorry. I know I talk really fast. And he actually can't watch our Wednesday show.
No, I know. And then when we talk over each other, he's got to get his eyes to one eye on you and one eye on me when we're both talking.
Basically, deaf black fella, you need to evolve and have your eyes to be able to no, joking. Sorry, mate. I know I talk fast. Someone's going to clip this and be like, the Oddcast is ableist. They're poking fun at disabled people. Ableist and racist, you know?
All of it. Just all of it. Look, I've never met you, deaf black fella that I know of, but I reckon you probably had a good chuckle at that too. All right. 7 News today spoke about Gen Z going for a 2-day working week. I'm assuming they're referring to the 4-day working week with 2 days at home. I'm guessing is probably what that's just a contraction of that. Look, I've got no objection. See, it used to be normal that you worked 6.5 days a week. You took Sunday mornings off for church, and that was kind of it. Or you might even be in a good enough position to take all of Sunday off. Then our standard of living got better, and so we started to take Saturdays and Sundays off. I'm not averse to the idea that as productivity increases, because that's the key to wealth, as productivity increases, if we could get to the point where people can create more value than what they consume in only 2 days, great. Great. I have no fundamental need for the human race to be working 5 days a week. The reality of life, though, and the way free markets work is that as you become more efficient and more productive and you can produce more, number one, human nature kicks in and you want to consume more. So we keep ourselves working. Actually, if you were willing to live like your great grandparents did in some little hovel with no air conditioning and paper thin walls and wearing the same clothes for 4 years because you can't afford to buy a new pair of pants, if you were willing to live like that, you'd only have to work 1 day a week. Go live in a tent somewhere and live like a homeless guy, right? You don't have to work so much that way. But we want to work because we want the stuff, we want the things. So human nature kicks in. But the other thing that actually happens as well, and this sounds like a bad thing until you stop and kind of see through it, is that as you get better and more productive, everyone else is watching, and everyone else in your industry is watching and learning from you, and they get more productive as well, which means that in order to compete now, we start lowering our prices. This is called the commoditization of an industry. So take, for example, a car. In the early days when cars were bespoke and coach built and all the rest of it, they could charge an enormous premium. The profit margins on cars 100 years ago was very, very large. Now, the profit margin on a car is insanely small, even though there's one of the most phenomenally complicated things that you or I will ever own, with hundreds of moving parts, crazy little explosions going inside, internal combustion engines and batteries and alternators and lights and heaters and all kinds of crazy nonsense going on. A car manufacturer will sell a car and only make $1,500–$2,500 off this entire freaking incredible space age machine. Why? Well, because the car industry has been commoditized. Now, what that means is it gets squeezed to the point that only the best survive. A lot of car manufacturers have gone out of business over the years. There's a reason for that. It's a phenomenally complicated, challenging industry. It's really difficult for someone who wants to build cars to only work 2 days a week, because your industry's been commoditized. You have to deliver these cars at ridiculously thin profit margins. And that means that everyone else gets to buy cars really cheap. Overall, in the big picture, it's a really wonderful thing, but it kind of makes a fantasy out of this idea. People talk about, there'll be a universal basic income and no one will have to work because AI and robots and everything else. Now, AI and robots are going to make us massively more productive, but those same two dynamics will kick in. Human nature will make us want to consume more, and commoditization will mean that our margins get squeezed again. The quality of life will go up, but actually we will still have to keep producing and adding value and creating value in the world, and that's not a bad thing.
I think there's actually something else that's missing from that, and that is, like, at our core, humans like to do. We need to be hands-on, and whatever that is, like, people think of work as just work. I don't know about you, Topher, but I've never looked at what I do as, it's a chore. Like when I worked in retail and when I was a waitress, maybe I looked at it differently, but I get to do what I love, and not just this podcast, but as a photographer, as a graphic designer, whatever I did. And I wanted to do it. And not only that, I was consumed with this desire to be really good at it. And I think, that's one of the benefits of pursuing something that you're passionate about. And I hope everyone has that in their life. Whatever that your passion is, whatever it is that your natural inclination is, you go and pursue it and become really good at it. But we don't do that anymore. I think for a lot of people, there's this resentment around having to be productive, about having to work, particularly with Gen Z. I don't want to work. We don't want to have to work harder than we should.
But you're amazing. Well, you're amazing just the way you are. Don't let anybody tell you different. You don't have to work on yourself or work a job or earn to cover the cost of, everything that you eat and wear. And
is it horrible of me to point out that the generation that says that is also the most anxious, depressed, self-conscious generation that's ever existed? Like, a lot of work, and look, I know not everyone can pursue like their dream job. I get that, but a lot of your self-esteem, a lot of your honorability in life relates to what you spend the vast majority of your time doing, and that for most of us is work. And if you do your job well, whatever that job is, it gives you like that extra inch. Do you know what I mean? Like you feel a little bit better about yourself.
I will say, I'm going to jump in because there's a lot of people going to be listening to you going, what? I've had jobs that I hate. I've had jobs that I really did not want to go to work and I really did not enjoy. But I've always then, once I'm there, and sometimes it'll take me half an hour to kick into gear in the morning because I really don't want to be there. But once I'm there, I'm going to do the damn well best I can. I've talked before, I worked for 7 years in a logistics company. We did all the fruit and veg and milk for Coles in Victoria, Southern New South Wales, South Australia, and Tasmania. 100,000 sort of plus units on bigger days would move through this place in a day. And we had to pick it by hand, manual handling. And I didn't love every day there. It was a fridge. In the middle of winter, you don't want to go and work in a 4-degree fridge, handling cold things with your hands. I've got red skin already, and I would just have bright red skin just from the wind burn and just the dryness of all of that. I should get sponsored by Maybelline or something just for a skincare regime. But I did not love and look forward to going to that job every single day. But once I was there, every single quarter at the end, every time we took a break, they'd put the figures up on the wall and you could see who'd picked the most. You better damn well believe I was in it to win it every single day, right? It might take me a half an hour to get my ass into gear, but you better believe once I was there and once I'd got going, same thing. One of my earliest jobs was as a landscaper's laborer. And there were some miserable days on the shovel, stinking heat, hacking through clay, trying to dig out a pit for some drainage, around a paved area that we were installing. Like there was some miserable days. But you better believe once I got my ass into gear, that I was not getting defeated by that, the dirt in the ground. That stuff was coming up. So there is that mindset where, you don't have to love what you do every day, but you do have to have some pride in yourself to choose to do the best that you can every day.
That's sort of more my point. I think, this sentiment around eat the rich and the billionaires, we're working for the billionaires, we're making other people rich. Yeah. Okay. There's an element of that. I will definitely, I'll pay that. But you're also making yourself rich in a way. You're upskilling, you're getting experience, you're getting paid. Sure, it might not be the money you want, but then guess what? You move on to the next one and the next one. Like I have worked some shit jobs, absolute crap jobs. Like when I was getting my clothing company off the ground, I worked at Lorna Jane for, I want to say 6 months or something. And you're like, okay, retail. Aside from almost being spat at every day, retail is probably the worst job I've ever had. Just dealing with the general public, and I learned a lot. I learn about how to resolve conflict. I learn about how to stand my ground and have boundaries. I learned how to have difficult conversations, and I was paid shit money. The retail award back then wasn't great. So I don't know. Like we demonize people wanting to work, and it's always a negative thing. I understand with everything in life, there's always a negative. Of course there is, but Aussies seem to have this knack for just pointing out the negative all the time. There's actually a lot of positives from working a shitty job. And I wish more people would just, yes, I'm not saying they're not shit jobs. I understand that, but there are some reasons to try. And that's what I want to just get people to understand.
So Red Pilled Fabs has a great point here. Not just kids, tradies don't better themselves either. When government forces the same job, same pay, right? So your remuneration is no longer tied to your performance. And this is, I remember back in the day when I started giving out encouragement awards and trophies for everybody, people said, oh, this is going to encourage mediocrity. Well, here we are, fast forward 25, 30, 35 years. Here we are. People are coasting along, getting rewarded for being mediocre, and they get offended if the person who did better gets more. So we're going through this right now with my daughter, Chloe, because obviously I'm not going to bring her up the same way. I've talked before about how my oldest, my son, who's now 9, he worked for 3 years. He started when he was 5. And then for his 8th birthday, he bought himself a Nintendo Switch. Right. And the deal was he's going to work his jobs. He's going to do stuff around the house that we've agreed we're going to pay money for. He's going to save it all up. And then when he manages to buy himself a Nintendo Switch, I will buy his first game. Right. So I was going to add on a game for him. Now, it so happened that his 8th birthday was approaching. He was getting close and he worked extra hard so that he could get it for himself on his 8th birthday. All good. We bought him the game. He loves that Nintendo Switch. He uses it. He's bought, I think, 2 games since. I bought him some bigger controllers so that because I get hand cramps when I'm trying to use the little tiny ones. And it's become a thing. It's become a thing we enjoy. And my daughter has started to get really upset because he's very protective of that. She's 5, so, you know, there's a lot to protect from, you know, she could break it very easily. And she wants it. She's like, no, you've had it for long enough. It's my turn. It's like, well, no, that's not how this works. He earned this. If you'd like to earn some money and work towards buying something that can be yours, and I will help you to protect from Winston and from my other kids, right? That'll be your thing. Absolutely, we can do that. But you can't just come in and claim his thing. And so she's going through that journey right now of having to realize, actually, work, reward. We're connecting those two things in her mind right now. And there's just not enough people that have that.
Another thing as well, like, guys, get your drinks ready because I'm about to say it. I've noticed this in higher education, or just tertiary education in general. Like, there's a saying, P's get degrees, and nothing boils my blood more than that. The amount of people like, oh, you know, I have to do the bare minimum to still rock up and get the same degree as me, who makes sure I have a HD average. Now, when you do your bachelor's, I think it's different at every university, but I got HDs across the board, and I graduated with honors, right? Or high distinction, or whatever they call it. So it's like a little extra little, like, yay you, right?
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, everyone was like, oh, Carly's such a square. Carly's such a square. What a loser. Why do you try so hard? You still get your degree if you just rock up, you know? And sure, that's yeah, you did get that degree, but also I probably got a better career out of it than you did. And now in my master's, it's the same thing, right? So with the way it goes, like, each trimester we do, like, there's a new group of people coming up. And so collectively at any given time, there might be like 25, 35 people doing it. And, you know, we all have to present and showcase our work across the 3 tiers. And I sit there and, like, you know, I take it really seriously. You know, for me, I've invested in this, right? It's 45 grand to do your master's. So that's coming out of my pocket. You better believe, like, I'm going to make it work for me. And then there's other people who like barely rock up to class, do the absolute bare minimum. Their work, and I'm not saying this because I'm judging them artistically, I'm saying it's mediocre because you can see the lack of effort. You know, they still get the same degree as me. And I look at that and I go, well, what's that teaching people? Like, why bother? Why try?
Yeah.
You don't need to, right? And I think it builds a culture of resentment for the people who do try, because there's no reward for being ambitious or trying hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got over 900 people watching now, which means I think we should get on to the big talk of the night, which is going to be the march.
Apparently,
however,
I can
important
see it.
item of business here. That one hair sticking up on the back of Topher's head is staring at me judgmentally. Cruel intentions, correct. That hair is, you're not imagining things. It is absolutely judging you. Deal with it. Okay, fine. I'll try and put it down. Hang on. Ta-da!
I'm fiddling with my hair.
Complain about?
I'm fiddling with my hair. Sorry, guys. I've just washed it, and you know when you just washed your hair, and it's like all it's in your business.
That's why I never wash my hair. It's simple.
We can tell.
Problem solved. Yeah, problem solved.
All right.
We
Let's start
have a lot
with
to talk about.
All right, so I'm going to start the obvious. Toph and I were right. Were we not?
Can we start somewhere different? Can we not start there? Can we save the told you so for a little bit later on? Because yes, there is a lot of that. But actually, can we acknowledge the fact that these events actually went remarkably well? And that with a couple of exceptions that we're going to talk about, the setup, because it wasn't a hijacking by the NSN, it was a setup by the organizers for the purpose of trying to platform the NSN. By and large, that failed, right? The organizers executed on their plan, and the attendees, by and large, thwarted that plan in practice. But of course, the media aren't going to talk about it that way. So I actually kind of want to start out with a bit of a seriously well done, because I want to start here. This is, so if you weren't watching Avi's coverage or Rukshan's coverage, you missed out. They do amazing work, and just they really prove, not that there was anything to doubt after all the COVID stuff, but my goodness, have a look at this from I believe this was from. Yeah.
2 seconds. I'm just going to interrupt. G, can you please send me those screenshots? Because I want to read out Anthony Albanese's comments, but please continue.
Oh, yeah. So I've got a video of him, but it might be different. So we'll see. So I just want you to enjoy this for a moment.
Our beauty rich and rare, in history's page and at every stage, our birth of train affair. In joyful strains and let us sing our birth Australia fair.
All right. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. And I think we should lead with this. There was so much good that was done, that was said. The attendance was pretty good. Many thousands in most capital cities. People argue, was it 5,000? Was it 15,000? It was a solid crowd, not record breaking, not going to change the world, but they got solid numbers. I want to read through an X post before we come back to what you've got there, Carly. I want to share the screen on an X post, this one here. So I don't know who this is. To my knowledge, I've never met them. So this isn't some hand-picked post. It's just a post that I came across that I think represents a really good person's perspective who was there. They've got photographs, they've got heaps of video. Yeah, we won't play all the videos, but this seemed to me like a really good, even-handed summary. So this is an account called Revan, the Riva Knight, a short thread on what I saw at the March for Australia in Melbourne today. From what I observed, it was an inclusive and peaceful event. Christians, gays, First Nations, and all manner of people from all different races, all Australians. There were also chants of fuck off Nazis whenever someone in black was spotted. Well done, guys. Like, yes, that is the spirit right there. The police prevented us from marching the designated route, which got the crowd angry, chanting, let us march. The march instead went down Flinders Street and up Elizabeth, where they met with counter-protesters. Sadly, I saw some Australian flags being vandalized. Yes, that did happen. On the way up Burke Street, patriots were saddled, on both sides by the left, but remained peaceful. Only insults were exchanged, no violence that I saw. At Parliament House, chants of Aussie, Aussie, Aussie rang out. It was at this point that some associated with NSN attempted to hijack the rally. I would argue that that's technically incorrect. That was the setup. They weren't hijacking. That was the intention of the organizers from the very start. However, credit to the crowd, it didn't really work. Back to what Revan is saying. This was the point when I promptly left, is that was not why I or the vast majority of people were there. And I think that's absolutely true. I met some amazing young and old Australians today who fear for the future of their country. They should be allowed to be heard without being branded as racists. You can oppose mass migration policies without hating immigrants. Mass migration alone is not the cause of our country's problems. It's just one of many policy failures that have contributed to this maelstrom. I love the government. I hope the government hears the voices of these once quiet Aussies, because I love this country and its people with all of my heart, even if some of them are a bit crazy. And we finish with the picture of this absolute unit of a lady who brought her pet alligator, who
crocodile.
I can't tell for sure. Well, okay. Is it going to see you in a while or later? That's how you can tell the difference.
So the one thing I love about Australia, I'm going to say a couple of things off tangent, but I'll come back to it. The one thing I love as a well-traveled Aussie is just how much people look at Aussies like we're these like fucking fearless brutes. Everyone knows that our fauna and flora kill us down here. And so the fact that we have this Aussie chick walking around with a salty in her hand, the fact that it's small is irrelevant. That just thing will still take your finger off. Firstly, I don't know, is that legal? Is it legal to own a saltwater crocodile? I don't know about that.
I think you can get licenses for reptiles. I don't know about these specifically.
Yeah, but like, not that I would advocate for taping its mouth down, but dude, that thing, like I said, it'll still take your finger off. Salties, like, they're dinosaurs, dude. This is like hundreds millions of years of evolution. They are the ultimate killing machines.
What this is proving is that everyone was welcome at the rally. Saltwater crocodiles
saying it's freshwater. It's a freshwater. Yeah. Okay, if it's freshwater, I'm still thinking it'll take your finger off. I don't know, man.
Look, I'm not going to cuddle it. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to cuddle it.
I will say this though. Sorry, I just want to tell you a funny story just to lighten the mood.
Sure.
I went to Florida a few years ago, and I was in the Everglades, and we went to an alligator show like you do, and the guy's acting all tough. He's got this alligator, and he's like holding its mouth, and he's like putting his hand in the mouth, and he's like sitting on it, like all this like sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he looks over at me. He's like, the lady in whatever color I was wearing, the lady in blue, you couldn't look less impressed if I tried. What do I need to do? And I was like, dude, I come from a land down under. We have salties. And he just went, say no more. Respect, sister. You are from Steve Irwin country. It was just funny, right? Like, this is the one thing that makes me super patriotic. I love that about Australia. I love that. And just back on the march, seeing all those Aussie flags. When was the last time we saw a moment where Aussies were like so excited to wear their flag? I think the last time we probably saw something like that to a big degree would be the 2000s Olympics. Would you agree? Like, I feel like in Australia, the last decade at least, Australia has been a dirty word. Like, we used to have the Triple J 100 on Australia Day. Everyone would wear their Australia bikini, their Australia board shorts, their Australia flip-flops. Like, we loved it. But now being patriotic is somewhat dirty. It's bad.
Yeah.
And that I get really mad about that. Now, this march, Topher and I disagree on mass migration. I agreed with the sentiments. I was already busy that day. I was going up to Albury.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put that over the top of you. I just want to play the video. Yeah.
I agree with stopping mass migration. I believe that we need to put a pause on it. I'm not anti-immigration. I'm anti this mass migration at the moment. I don't think it's healthy. So I agree with the sentiments, but I had a lot of reservations around this march for a couple of reasons. One, it was evidently poorly organized in Melbourne, and there was definitely a lot of things that just made me go, this, if it goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong. And I'm grateful it didn't go really wrong. But my concern with this is the media and the government would have already had a pre-written press release story ready to rock and roll. They were just waiting for the perfect footage to do it. Now, they did get bits of it. You know, they got Thomas Sewell winding up to punch someone. They got the Nazis doing their thing. We knew that was going to happen. But what that does, and why I was so angry about this whole NSN thing playing into the march, is that there are people with genuine concerns, and I agree with them. I agree with the sentiments of the march. I'm very patriotic. I fucking love Aussies. I'm hard on us because I know we can do better. And a lot of people get up in the comments and go, oh, Carly, here she is lecturing Aussies again. So I'm like, yeah, because I care, man. You should be proud that I care. I fucking love this country, and I will stand up for this country, and I want Aussies to do bigger and better things, and we can. But with the NSN getting in there, antagonizing and doing what they're doing, what it does, and this is something that I know we've talked about before, but I just want to really, really point this home. When it comes to people who are politically aware or politically engaged, right? Like people who are watching this podcast right now, you guys are looking at a lot more stuff than your average normie. And I don't say normie to be disparaging. I'm talking about your average Joe citizen who watches maybe a little bit of the nightly news, probably sees some small headline clips on social media, but isn't for the life of them paying attention to the articles like you and I are. They're not on X scrolling. They're not having this political discourse at the kitchen table. So for the normies, they go and see like those clips that Channel 7, Channel 9, ABC, SBS are putting up, where Thomas Sewell's getting up and saying some fucking we support Uncle Hitty, and he's wearing his pajamas. They see a bunch of riffraff fighting, and that's the sentiment they leave with. This is all about brand, and this is something that obviously I do as a career. I look at that and I go, we need to, I know you guys are going to be like, oh, it's superficial. No, you need to understand this. We're not trying to convince the people that already agree with us. What we're trying to do is appeal to the normies. We want them to understand that we're advocating for them. And if we have people like this co-opting the march, co-opting the media attention around it, it actually really detracts from the narrative. Right. Now, these NSN losers, I couldn't give a shit about them. They're dickheads. But what I really want to care about and want people to understand, when it comes to protesting in these marches, we need to be on message. And that's what we need the media to see. And that's why it really matters who's organizing it. It's not about ego. It's not about trying to grift or attach it to anyone's particular name. It's because look what happens when it goes wrong. Now, Topher and I, obviously, we led a lot of marches around COVID and lockdowns, and a lot of them in the early days were demonized. Why? Because people reacted. The police, the government, they knew you were going to give them the reaction. They had the press there to film it. They got the narrative. They could put the story out. That is why we need people. I know they're trying to provoke you. I know they're trying to antagonize you. I know they're all there to try and stir you up. You need to be better and not react. That's what's so important. So
All right. So I'm going to agree with many things and disagree with a few things. Firstly, I didn't lead any marches
Go.
during COVID. I was very careful not to be an organizer, and I want all the credit to
You knew
go
what I
to
meant.
the organizers because they took an extra level of risk beyond what I did. So I just wanted to clarify that particular point. I wasn't an organizer of those protests, and those people have balls of steel and deserve enormous respect. But this is, I agree that this is why who is organizing it matters. And this detail that I'm going to talk about next, in my opinion, makes all the difference. When a march is organized by, let's say, someone like Carl's or like many people who watch our show, and like the vast majority of people who did actually show up, who are just concerned about mass immigration, right? Now, I see it differently, but I completely respect there are many people concerned about mass immigration who are not the least bit racist. They're just concerned about infrastructure, about the economy, about social cohesion, those sorts of things, not motivated by racism in the slightest. I accept that. If the march was organized by those people, and that was all the publicity, that's what all of it was about. That's what the people behind it were about. Their identities were public. The speakers list was published. This is a really important detail. We're going to get to this. This is going to be a big issue later on. The speakers list was published so that everyone understood that's what this is about, and that's what these people are about, and that's what the speakers are about. And then the NSN come in to try and hijack it. They are simply doing their little attention whore tactics, their little pajama parties. And the fact that the media is going to use that against the protesters doesn't matter, right? The media, we know the media are going to use it. No matter what happens, the media are going to find a way to demonize the march. That's actually less important. We'll get to that. But there is a big difference between that scenario versus the scenario that actually happened, where it was the best mates of the National Socialist Network, of the neo-Nazis, where this was not a thing that was different that the Nazis tried to hijack. This was set up by the friends of the Nazis for the purpose of them grandstanding. For the purpose, this was a setup, not a hijack, right? And that's an important difference, because when the media report and say this crowd followed a bunch of Nazis who were carrying the banners, yes, actually, they're correct, right? This is why who was organizing mattered. I got demonized for outing Beck Freedom and the fact that she hangs out with fascists online, and she seems to think that Jew jokes are funny and all that stuff, right? I was demonized for outing that fact, and people said, oh, who cares? I'm going for my own reasons. Well, fine, you are there for your own reasons. I accept that, but you are walking along behind an out and proud known Nazi who is holding the banner because the organizer said, hey, you Nazi friends of mine, can you come along and help to run this protest? The fact that the Nazis were able to get on stage and, open mic. I'm sorry, what? Open mic at a public protest where the Nazis have said publicly, we're going to come along, we're going to try and recruit, we're going to do our little grandstanding. Now, you or I, as organizers, well, I would call up, Jolly, what's his name? The boxer who started the Peacemakers. Gosh, why has his name escaped me? Help me out in the comments, guys. I've interviewed him a bunch of times. I like him. He's a great guy. Help me out in the comments, guys. Peacemakers. Let me scroll down to the bottom. Someone will have given me the tip on this.
I don't know who you're talking about. Danny Green?
I'll get his name in a sec. Sorry, I'm so far
Nick
from
Patterson.
the bottom of the comment. Nick Patterson, thank you. I'm still scrolling to get to the bottom of the comments. There we go. Nick Patterson. I would have called up Nick Patterson and said, hey, listen, can we get a team of people to make sure that no one can hijack the stage? We're only going to have the scheduled speakers. I'm going to advertise it publicly so everyone knows exactly what they're in for, and no one other than the people that have been vetted and put on the list are going to be allowed within 10 meters of that microphone, and I want them tackled if someone tries. That's what a responsible organizer does, but that's not what this was about. You need to understand this was an intentional setup. The NSN got a hold of the microphone in Sydney, in Melbourne, in Adelaide, and in Hobart. That did not happen by accident. They came with speeches prepared. Why did they prepare a speech? Because they knew they were going to get the microphone. This is the detail that matters, and this is why I took the approach that I did of saying, hey, guys, I would really encourage you not to go, and if you choose to go, please don't wear my stuff and keep your eyes on a swivel and all that stuff that I said. This was not a march that was hijacked against the will of the organizers. This was a setup done by the organizers. Now that I've said all of that, the fact is the setup didn't really work very well. Now, you were right. The media got what they wanted, but they were always going to get that. Even if it was a hijacking, even if it had been done for all the right reasons and it was just a hijacking, the media would still have focused on that. So the media coverage really is probably about the same, if I'm honest. It probably isn't any worse. But the fact is, the people that marched, I'm sorry, you marched behind Nazis. You didn't know that. You didn't realize that. But I tried to warn you, and you know, some thousands of people watched my video and a few people were warned. You marched with the Nazis. I'm sorry. That is now a fact. Multiple, you know, we talk about this all the time. Multiple things can be true at once. It's true that you were there for all the right reasons. It's also true that you marched behind Nazis, right? Those two things are actually both true today.
And I mean, I read a comment before and I agree with this comment. Like, we don't want to give these guys airtime. We're not going to play their speeches. We're not going to show their faces. These people are losers. No one likes them. It's the same group. They're idiots. But the issue is, like, you know, all you need is that one bad apple, right? And as I said, the media got their story. That's what they wanted. You know, aside from the fact that almost for the last 2 years, we've had pro-Palestine protests with people doing horrible destruction to public property. Just, you know, it is. It's double standards. But again, this is my point, and I'm trying to say this in a way that's really succinct. We are the minority in this discussion at the moment. I believe there is a lot of silence in this sentiment. I believe a lot of people actually agree with this sentiment that probably aren't inclined to go and stand in a march like this. There's a lot of people that disagree with COVID and still didn't go to the protests. My biggest thing, and I try and say this to you guys in the comments, because I get it. Like, you're angry, you want to do something, you want something to happen now. I understand the sentiment. It was the same around the petition I did with the Castle law. Yeah. That's not how things work. I know you don't like that's how things work, but there is a procedure and a process. You can hate it, but it's there for a reason. There's a reason Topher and I don't cover breaking news. There's a reason why we're not so reactive. I know that when a story pops out, and we're going to get to the Desi situation in a second, there's a reason we didn't touch it the day it broke, because none of us knew. We didn't have the information, and neither do you. But the way social media works is that there's an incentive to be on it first. You get the engagement, you get the clicks, you get the ad revenue, you get all the people jumping onto your thread. I understand why people do it. When it comes to stuff like this, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You need to pay more attention to the details, because at the moment, we are going against the grain. Now, to really clarify my point, I agree with the sentiment of the march. I am anti this mass migration. Topher isn't. Now, the problem with that is the average Aussie, and again, I'm not talking to those of you who agree with me. We're trying to get more people to be sympathetic to our causes, yeah? That old adage is true. Sugar attracts more ants than salt, right? So if we're going to go out there aggressive and attacking people and yelling at people and calling people all sorts of names, that's not going to make people want to be sympathetic to our cause. Hang on, let me finish.
All right. But there's one important exception.
Go.
No, you go, and then I've got a video to play that shows the exception.
Go. Here we go. Fine. Ash Jackson's having a crack at me, so please, Topher, interrupt me.
All right. So what I want to get to is the one exception to that, which is where I'm super proud of everyone that did go. Like I said, I don't support the anti-mass immigration sentiment. I'm not on board that. I've been upfront about that for literally years. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody here. However, I'm proud of Australia. I love Australia, and I love to see this. I'm going to show you a compilation of people booing the Nazis in various cities. So like I said, they got the microphone in Hobart, Adelaide, Melbourne, and Sydney. I believe Brisbane dealt with them brilliantly. I believe they literally were just absolutely ostracized completely. They had no chance up there. So credit to everyone involved. West Australia, Northern Territory, I don't actually know about. But they got the microphone in at least 4 states. And these are some of the crowd reactions. Have a look.
You've lost us!
All Australians, not just white Australians.
We love all of you. We're not racist at all. We love every one of you.
Okay, this is it.
We're here to say the truth about why we're protesting, and these guys are not representing what we think.
The fucking Nazi group ruined it.
Yeah,
it was good before that. That's why everyone's leaving now. No one stands for that.
We stand for everyone, not just a few people, you know? That's racist.
The extremists ruin it for everyone. That's what happens.
I am unapologetically proud to be a
I'm going to mute it at this point because I don't even want to hear their bullshit. Now, this is footage from Chris Coveries. He's a New South Wales, a Sydney-based independent journalist. He does fantastic work up there. And he was at the Sydney March, and this is actual footage, and these are people's actual comments. This is how it's done. You can see the backs of people walking away there, people yelling out, people booing. This is how it's done. I believe the guy in Hobart got ripped off stage real quick when he tried to do his thing. That's how it's done. Now, the next step is for the NSN to get their asses absolutely handed to them by a group of angry real Australians, but we're not quite there yet. But certainly the treatment that they received at the hands of the crowd is fantastic to see. But understand, them getting that microphone was not a mistake. It was not a hijack. It was a setup. And every single person there was intended to be used as a pawn by the organizers. Understand, Beck Freedom is not your friend. The NSN did not hijack anything. It was a setup. And we need to learn from that and never trust those people ever again.
Yeah, I agree. And look, what I find really interesting on the other side of this march, like I agree that, like I said, I agree with the march, but I loved seeing that many Australian flags. Like, I felt really proud to see that.
Right. Yeah, fantastic.
And seeing all that footage, like, you know, singing Advance Australia Fair and seeing all the different ethnicities. Like, no one's making this about race. Only the Nazis are making this about race. And I think that's the frustration here. The mainstream media is trying to paint this as a race thing. I don't think it's that. It's more, you know, like, your average Australian is going, hey guys, like, we're struggling. There's no houses. Everything's like kind of fucked in this country. Can we just put a pause? I don't think that's a racist thing to say, but the media is trying to paint it as like we're all racist. And I reject that unequivocally. But what I do find really interesting is the politicians' responses. Now, we've got comments from the top cop coming out and say, I can't remember, do you have his comments there? They were really disparaging.
Not from the cop. I've got Albo.
Yeah, I'll read Albo's. I'll bring up the top cop one. You go Albo's first.
I've got a video here.
Big numbers in the scheme of things in a nation of almost 27 million people, let's be clear here.
So you do think this is a tiny proportion of the Australian population that has this anti-immigration sentiment?
That shows that was the case.
All right, so that's his response. He's dismissive. Can
you get a more out of touch Prime Minister? Like, I know these people live in echo chambers. I know that. But this is the wonderful thing about Albo's comment is this. It's going to piss people off. And people are going to be like,
a lot of people off.
Wasn't enough people. Guess what? The march next time will be double, which is, you know, not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, Red Pilled, you're quite correct. In fact, Joel, whatever his name is, he tried to be an Antifa leader. And they kicked him out, which is like, how do you fail at Antifa? It's like failing the entrance exam for a kindergarten. Like, there isn't one. They will take anybody. So how you flunk out of Antifa, I'm not quite sure. But he found his home with the National Socialist Network. And they really are birds of a feather. Like, people get angry when you say, well, no, the National Socialists and the communist Marxist Antifa, they are. It's like Man United versus Arsenal. Right, it's or whatever. Pick two big soccer teams or footy teams, whatever. They both play the same game, right? They want their supporters hating on each other, but ultimately they're both playing the exact same game. So no, you're absolutely right there, Red Pilled. If you haven't got that ready, I've got some other stuff.
No, I have. It's in the Herald Sun. Right. So Anthony Carbines, the police minister.
Yep.
So he called them absolute grubs. So basically, it's come out and demonized everyone at the march. They're all absolute unhinged grubs. That's what he called it, which, to be honest, is fucking disgusting. Grow up.
Yeah.
You know, these kind of blanket statements from our politicians and our bureaucracy just shows me that, again, you've got the intellectual depth of a puddle. I love to say that. You know, demonizing all walks of life who just want to be proud of their country is like, it's just, you're pouring more petrol onto this fire, mate. That's all this is.
For sure. For sure. Now, there's a lot of really interesting stuff. So actually, let me play a video, because what has also been pleasant is that there's been some truly awful media coverage that has absolutely manipulated everything in the way that the Nazis would have wanted them to. But there has actually been some okay coverage that actually wasn't an attack. It wasn't a hit job. I've got this here from Channel 9, believe it or not.
Much for Australia assembled near Central Station around 12 o'clock today. And what became immediately apparent were the huge numbers of people who turned up. At least 5,000, maybe more, took part in today's march. They assembled near Central Station and then marched down Broadway here to Victoria Park, a short distance, just a couple of kilometres along Broadway. They were shepherded by big police numbers who kept them in check, but there was no problems with the crowd. There was no violence, despite what some people feared. Most of the speakers here today have called for a limit or an end to the current migration. The fear that people have here at the moment is that there's so many people coming into Australia from overseas, it's affecting jobs and it's affecting housing. Too much migration in your view?
It's not just that in particular, but there's no room, there's no infrastructure.
We just need to have immigration under control. There is not enough housing for our own kids. I am petrified for my grandchildren.
Love migration, okay? I'm from a family of immigrants as well. The point is, how many you bring in the country? Where do you house them?
There were fears today's march could get hijacked by far-right groups. That doesn't appear that's happened. And in fact, if there is another march for Australia, given what's happened here today, they're sure to get even bigger numbers.
Was that Brisbane coverage?
I thought that was, that's an excellent question. I thought it was Sydney, but I don't actually know.
Sydney's march for Australia.
No, Sydney, yeah. That was Sydney. Yeah.
Can I play you this contrast from Anthony Albanese talking about the Palestine protest over the Sydney Harbour Bridge and here?
Yeah.
Let me pull it up for you. Hang on. Hang on. I need to remove yours and then add that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yesterday's march was peaceful and was an opportunity for people to express their concern about what is happening in Gaza. There's always good people will turn up to demonstrate their views about particular issues, but what we have here is neo-Nazis being given a platform. That's what we saw on the weekend, and the tone, of course, of much of the rallies was unfortunate is the best way that you could put it, but hateful in some of the extreme examples.
He's such an insufferable twat, but basically like double standards. So it was mostly peaceful. He didn't mention the fact that we had a sitting member of parliament standing right next to someone holding a picture of the Ayatollah in Iran. And we've talked about this already, how it's aged like milk. You know, there's people in that march holding the flag of ISIS and the Taliban. There were agitators in that crowd. There were people who want to, was it death to Australia, burning the Australian flag? But there was a peaceful protest. There was nothing wrong with that one. But
no big deal. The Ayatollah up on a sign when we know now that Iran was sponsoring anti-Jew terrorism in Australia, you know, and fire bombings. No problem. No issue there.
He just kicked out the Iran what do you call
ambassador.
The ambassador.
Yeah.
But and this is the frustrating thing because again, like you guys watching this, there's 1,147 of you. Most of you guys like are watching this stuff all day, every day. But you got to remember, the average person sees Albo say that it's mostly peaceful. They're not checking to see all the nuance. They don't know who the Ayatollah is. They probably haven't seen these stories. And so what ends up happening, and this is the point I try to make to people, because again, everyone wants to be super reactive, is that by the time all that information filters down to your normies, it's been like years. You know, they don't get this stuff. We get it because we're paying attention. We're looking for it. So that's the frustration. I mean, today in Port Melbourne, there was a pro-Palestine march, and they kind of did like a shut-in, and they disrupted all the big trucks that were going on to Todd Road. So I imagine toll and all that, something to do with, you know, shipping stuff to Israel. I don't know. I didn't really look into it. But again, you're just disrupting people who are on their work commute, people who are trying to get to work, trying to do their job, trying to get to wherever they're going. The problem I have with the Palestine protests, and I just want to clarify this because I've been really hard on it. We've had those protests nearly every weekend for 2 years. You've protested. Yes, protesting is a human right. Yes, I agree with your ability to speak up, but it does come a point where you're actually now like causing significant harm to a vast majority of people in this state. And I know there's marches in other states. I mean, Victoria's just a basket case. But What about the small business operators in the CBD who just know Sundays are off limits, don't even bother opening, you know?
Yeah. And it is that thing of, in the end, they start doing a lot more harm to their cause than good. And I talk about this a lot in both of my books. There is protest is a human right. No one should need to get permission. No one should need to have it off limits. Oh, you can't protest for this topic or what have you. But also, you don't have the right to take over whatever you want in the name of protest. You can't turn around and say, well, there's 10 of us. We're going to stand in the middle of an intersection. Yep.
So the Freedom Rally shut down the Westgate. Yes, they did. But do you remember we were in lockdown and had been in lockdown for a really fucking long time? But contrast that to the Just Stop Oil people, Amanda, who stopped the traffic going over the Westgate Bridge when they put their van sideways and literally backed up traffic on a regular work day and stopped someone from getting to the hospital to give birth to their child. And people ran out of petrol on that bridge. So compare the two.
Yeah. Now, I want to come to this. So Found Hope has pulled me up here. He said, no, I was in Sydney. I marched with Australians. You were wrong. And to say that I marched behind Nazis is pathetic. It shows you were looking for facts that back you up. But Found Hope, more than one thing can be true at one time. You marched with Australians. That's true. I've said, we've been very clear about that already, right? But also, I'm sorry, it's a fact. You marched behind Nazis. The fact that you didn't recognize them, or you perhaps weren't at the front, you didn't see who was holding the banners. So Beck Freedom herself went to Sydney. The reason she did that, as I understand it, is because in Sydney, you have to apply for a permit and someone has to put their name on that permit. And that forced someone to be publicly the organizer in Sydney. And most of the people that were the organizers didn't want to be public because they're known fascists, they're known neo-Nazis. And so she put her name down on the Sydney permit, which meant that she had to travel to Sydney to be present at the Sydney protest. So we know who Beck Freedom is. I did a video on this. I played audio of her horsing around and joking around with actual neo-Nazis. Now, I don't think that Beck herself is an actual neo-Nazi, but she's very comfortable hanging out with them online. But more than this, I'm going to bring up a photograph here just to kind of prove my point about why this matters. And I don't know, I might have to kick out your picture there, Carly. I'm not sure. But let me show you why this matters. The fact that you didn't know who they were doesn't change the fact that that's who they were. Now, here are some pictures of the Katters Australia Party having to deny links to neo-Nazi groups after members were photographed with extremists at the Townsville anti-immigration rally. Now, okay, I don't think the people who already hate Katter might believe that he's a closet Nazi or something like that, but the people who actually have any kind of a common sense in their head know that he's not a neo-Nazi. But the fact is, this is Robbie Katter, Bob's son, in the lower photograph here, being photographed alongside 3 known members of the National Socialist Network. Middle dude there trying to grow himself a Hitler moustache. The other 2 with throat tattoos, all dressed in their black pajamas. There's Bob Katter. Now, he was probably just marching along. He may have had no idea that he was alongside someone there. He's holding the megaphone up. Next to him, just to his left, to our right of screen, is someone with a little mouthpiece for the megaphone. Who knows? That was just in the hurly-burly of the moment. But Robbie's standing there and posing. Now, I get this. I have actually a lot of sympathy for these sorts of moments because when you're a public figure like what they are, people come up to you, hey, can we get a photograph? Your default answer is yes. Your default answer is always going to be yes. But when you attend marches that are being organized by known neo-Nazis, this happens. And this isn't the NSN hijacking. They haven't snuck into somebody else's rally. Their mate organized it. Their mate made sure that they knew there was going to be an open mic and that they were standing in the right place when the open mic happened so that they could be the first ones to jump in and try and do their grandstanding. This was a setup, not a hijack. This is why that matters.
Last thing, because I'm bored talking about these fuckwits, is like, how can you take them seriously? This is how I'm going to end the segment. Like, I'm not one to make fun of people's appearance, but I'm gonna. And I'll make an exception for some twats like these guys. For starters, walking around in your little ninja outfits, like your little banana in pajamas, black pajamas, it's embarrassing. Grow up. Yep. But also, old mate Thomas Sewell is trying to do the old Uncle Hitty moustache, looking like a cool unit. And then Joel Davis has his fucking stupid mullet with these oversized glasses. Like, these people want us to take them seriously. How about you take yourself seriously? You look like absolute stooges. Oh, yeah. Like, these people are gronks. And like, I disagree with them wholeheartedly on this whole white Australia bullshit. But also the way you represent yourselves, who the fuck would want to stand with you? You look like losers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, do
Anyway,
we talk about the
them.
fact? Well, hang on. One last thing, and if you don't want to talk about it, I won't. But I want to raise. They did then storm up a hill and attack this Indigenous sacred site thing in Melbourne. That's where there's probably going to be some genuine criminal charges against Tom Sewell himself, because he was one of the main instigators of that particular incident.
Good. Put him in jail. Okay. All right. I'll say this one more thing about them, right? You knew what they were going to do. These people are predictable. And they talk about being patriotic. They care about Australia. No, you fucking don't. Because an opportunity to show unity and to march together as one, as Australians, you made it all about yourself. You don't give a fucking damn about this country. You care about yourselves and your self-surfing, stupid little ideology. You and your little pajama-wearing little gronk friends. That's all you care about, your ego. Thomas Sewell, what's his name? Joel Davis. They just want to see themselves in the news. They want to get some clicks, put it up on X, get a couple yay, we're so cool. The rest of the country fucking hates these people. No one likes them. They're losers. None of us stand with it. But all they want is it's self-serving. None of this is about being patriotic for Australia. The people who were patriotic were the mass amount of people who were standing there with their Aussie flags, who had genuine concerns about how this country's been run. Those are the patriotic Aussies. And unfortunately, a fucking couple of stupid losers had to ruin it. But anyway, I'm done. I don't want to talk about these people.
Well, hang on. Let's wind up with a couple of chats here. So there's going to be another Australia march on the 13th of the 9th. This is the first I've heard of it. So thank you, Stephen, for your comment. I heard the organisers are much better, but locations are still to be announced. I'm going to tie this in with another comment that I've got waiting. I'm going to get to in a second. If you want to march, go march. But can I really, really, really encourage you to care about who the organisers are? Yes, the NSN are going to do their thing. But we should actually care about who it is that we're throwing our weight behind. Now, understand this. It wasn't, so someone here has said, yes, the NSN look ridiculous, but someone had to, I'm assuming that means like someone had to run the march. Riot, if I've misunderstood your comment, then please let me know. But I'm assuming that means someone had to organize the march. Well, someone has to look ridiculous. That might be the other way. But this march didn't come from them. They hijacked a viral TikTok video that went viral, and the guy who made that video suggested a date, and then the Nazis came in and co-opted the whole thing. So it didn't even come from them. But yes, absolutely, as a libertarian, I do support the right of people to political freedom, including political protest. That doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want in the name of political protest. If you start invading people's homes and smashing their stuff up and stealing their cars and just say, oh, no, but it's a political protest, and the cops have to go, oh, well, sorry, your right to protest is protected. No, you're not protesting anymore. You're vandalizing, you're stealing, you're breaking and entering. If you're deliberately going out there and causing trouble, you've gone beyond the boundaries of protest. But yes, if people want to protest against mass immigration, go for it. Be my guest. But use what just happened as a learning experience. Recognize that the organizers do actually matter. And there's a difference between having your good protest hijacked versus you becoming a goose in someone else's setup. There is a big difference between those two things. And I'm sorry, that's going to upset a lot of people, but that's a fact. So if there is another protest being organized, fantastic. I'm perfectly happy to hear that. Everyone, please pay attention to who the organizers this time are. Let's make them the center of attention to make sure that they're not going to set everyone up the way that they did this time.
I want to touch on Ricky's comment here. Extremists are always going to fill a void unless more mainstream group. It's only the fault of the government and the opposition for not addressing their concerns. So the biggest thing here is that when you censor or silence honest discussion, you're going to get this extremist discussion that pops up.
Yes.
The problem is for the longest time, for particularly the last decade, it's been politically incorrect to be proud to be an Australian. It's been politically incorrect to be proud of our culture or our white heritage or I don't mean the country's white heritage. I mean our own ancestry. All these things, right? With that whole wokeness. So what happened is there's a lot of people like me, I disagree with a lot of that progressive left, most of it, to be honest. And so for the last decade, we have been silenced, we've been sidelined, we've been ridiculed, harassed, stigmatized, called every pejorative under the sun. So what happens is you get people who get pushed to the fringes. And so the NSN is absolutely a fault of the government at this point. These things happen when you silence normal common sense discussion. It's the exact same on the progressive left. I know there's a lot of people who are liberal leaning, left leaning, who absolutely despise the progressive left extremists. And it's frustrating because that's all we see is the people who are gluing their hands to the road and, you know, destroying private property for the sake of their ideology. So the two things are true. What I'm trying to advocate for, what Topher's trying to advocate for is I agree with the sentiments, but it has to be done in a way that really cares about how the normies perceive it. And I'm going to keep beating that drum because we're not trying to convince people who already agree with this. What we're trying to do is get the average Joe to see what we're sticking up for. And so I think the frustration Topher and I have, and Topher probably more so than me, is you're much more policy driven and you can see where things are leading us to, you know, 10 years down the track. And you've seen this happening for years. I've been calling out our adaptation of socialist ideology for a while now, for almost a decade. You've been calling it out from a policy front, and we already know what's happening. And for the average Aussie who isn't aware of this, the first time they are going to become aware of it is when it's biting them on the ass. And that's kind of what's happening with the youth crime, for example. Most people aren't aware of it until they get their home invaded. So this is kind of the frustration, and this is why, like, I understand people are annoyed, people want to speak up, people want to react, but it has to be done with a little bit more care and consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, can I? There's a couple of great comments here. So Deaf Blackfella says they tried to take his Indigenous flag. Yep. Unfortunately, look, we've done that to death. I'm not going to go further down there. But Skippy the Bush Kangaroo says, Topher, that's your opinion. Yes, that's my opinion.
Capitals.
Cool. You're on my podcast. That's the deal. You come here, you get my opinion. Not sure why we're having this conversation. So Daniel Moore has brought some clarity around the 13th. Yes, that does ring a bell. Joel Jamal was talking about the 13th that has organisers he trusts. Yes, okay. So if Joel's behind that, then I've been working with Joel for many, many years. He's a good guy. He's got his head screwed on right. He's not going to brook any of this kind of nonsense. So yes, that is interesting. I need to find out more about that. I don't agree with any of them at all. Why, when they are white supremacists, do they wear black? At least the KKK wore white.
Look, big fella, your guess is as good as mine, man. There's a lot of confusion. Why are they wearing pajamas? Why the pajamas?
That is a great line, big fella. Now, a bit of information about the salty. $300 annual license, or the croc, I should say. $300 annual license fee to keep a saltwater croc in Victoria. My parents just gave their 10-foot salty away. It came with the farm they brought. Talk about getting extras. To get SA below 3 million. Are they trying to avoid the superannuation account? Getting rid of the croc has devalued their farm. Am I misreading that? Is that they've got rid of the 10-foot croc to devalue the farm so it goes below the $3 million threshold?
Aside from like the cred that gives you, what's the incentive for keeping a salty? Like, no offense, guys. I'm fucking terrified of them.
I'd be terrified too.
Cool,
I'm with you there. But people like what
cool,
they like.
But it's the same as a great white shark. Like, respect from afar. That's where I'm at. You know?
Hey, at least with sharks, you can put lasers on their heads. I've never seen someone do that with crocodiles.
No one's going because this thing's going to kill you. But I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know if this is like bad taste, but I'm going to say it anyway because whenever I ever worried about this, but like the last thing I'll say about the NSN pajamas boys is like they're trying to look cool, like, right? They're wearing all their black and, you know, they're sporting their little Uncle Hitty mustachios.
Yeah.
Hugo Boss designed the outfits for the SS. Like,
yeah,
they were sharp and, you know, deplorable, but well presented, you could argue.
Yeah.
Hugo Boss could cut a mean suit. Your little Nike joggers and your little black outfits that you wear,
No,
you don't quite look the same. I'm just saying, you know, it's
just have a little bit of self-respect here.
Yeah. Anyway, that's last thing. I don't want to talk about them anymore. Losers.
All right, moving on. What do we got next?
Okay. Do you want to touch on the Desi thing? I want to say one thing quickly before we tackle this.
Sure.
My best mate's sister was meant to be there, and so seeing, like, literally was meant to do the warrant. The only reason she wasn't is she got pulled away for something else. So I have seen this from a family, like, basically involved, and the fear that this has brought, this whole like coulda, woulda, shoulda kind of, like it could have been
the
her.
survivor's guilt and everything that comes with that.
Yeah, and so knowing her family really well, seeing what it's doing to their family, I want to say this unequivocally. I condemn his actions.
Sure.
You have no right to take someone's life. I don't give a fuck who you are, what you stand for, what your ideologies are. You have no right to take someone's life. And I'm conscious of the way I speak about this because I don't think any of us know at this point. I've seen all the shit online. Everyone's trying to like, oh, this doesn't add up. This is a psyop. This is here. Guys, can we just remember at the core of this, 2 people lost their lives, and these are people who had families themselves. So, like, let's have a little bit of tact when we discuss this.
So the only time when it's acceptable to take a life is when you're in fear of your own life or you are intervening because you're in fear of somebody else's. That is the only time. And to act as though the police are going to take away your life when they're there to serve a warrant. Yes, I understand things can get pretty hairy, but there's been escalation that has happened, and I'll reserve judgment until more is known, body camera footage, etc. But yeah, I can't see a circumstance in which it becomes justifiable to draw on a cop and pull the trigger unless they've started shooting first, which we certainly have no information saying that that's what happened. But like you said, we don't know. I know more than most. I know. I'm just going to say I know more than most. But I still don't know enough to be able to make judgments on what actually happened in those crucial moments. But there is more to this because this story starts years ago. And it starts with the fact that police extended beyond simply upholding the law equally for all and became essentially political actors. They became the paramilitary wing of the government of the day. And we saw that during COVID. And I had a showdown. I've a relative that I love very dearly who is a police officer. And I had a showdown with them at Christmas one time, mid lockdowns, where I said to them, you are playing with fire by allowing the police to be politicized like this and to be so aggressive and so violent. And you are taking away, you are destroying the goodwill that the police need. And they got really mad at me. They got really, that was not a good Christmas. They were not at all happy. And of course, it was well known amongst the family that I was doing what I was doing. And there was a lot of tension around all of that. And unfortunately, what we have is a situation where, again, I do not condone it. I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm not saying, oh yeah, but humans are humans. You push long enough, you push hard enough, someone snaps. Different people are at different points. Different people are different distances away from snapping. I'm not saying that he should have snapped. I'm not saying that him snapping was a good thing or that he did the right thing when he snapped. I'm just saying the harder you push people, the more of them snap. We saw this in the US. Let me talk about the US situations because I think they're longer ago and they're more remote. And so I think we can look at them a little bit more dispassionately. There are 2 particular incidents in the US that I think are really important for us, for Australians, for everyone to know about. One is called Ruby Ridge and the other one is Waco. In both of those situations, the police or alphabet agencies, multiple agencies in the case of Waco, made the decision that they needed to move in a particular fashion that essentially laid the groundwork for escalations towards actual violence. And then ultimately, in the case of Ruby Ridge, they literally sniped a woman and her child. A single bullet killed them both from very long range. There was not a shootout going on. They literally, they decided, in the report, they said, oh, we thought that she was carrying a weapon. She was carrying her child. They had high-powered telescopic scopes. And this was not a tactical situation. They weren't making life and death decisions under duress or anything like that. They simply, from the comfort of a hide up on a ridge, made the decision to pull the trigger, and they murdered the woman and their child there in that particular siege at Ruby Ridge. And then at Waco, you get the situation where instead of so they allegedly had suspicions around this guy being a sex predator and everything else. The leader of the Waco, was that David Koresh? Have I got that name right?
Yeah, there's a really good doco on Waco on Netflix at the moment. Highly recommend you guys watching.
Yeah, and they could have got him in town, served warrants on him then. They could have issued a summons. They could have done a bunch of different things that didn't need to turn this into a military standoff that ultimately escalated to the point where, depending on who you believe, they assaulted the building to save the kids and a fire broke out, or they deliberately turned the compound into a tomb and burnt it down on the heads of everyone inside, depending on who you want to believe. And when you look at all of the decisions that were made, you kind of go, well, if you wanted it to turn into a deadly confrontation, you did well. Like, you made all the right decisions to push it in that direction. And I think there are a lot of questions that need to be asked. By the time you're sending in 10 police officers to serve one warrant, 10 officers to serve one warrant, it's very clear that a risk assessment has come back very high. Right. And I've had people reach out to me, and I'm not going to name names or even talk about how long they've been in the service or what rank they are or whether they're still in or not, etc. But I've had numerous concerned citizens who are or were significant serving members of Victoria Police have come to me privately expressing their dismay and saying, I smell a rat. This doesn't seem right. This was a level 3 situation. The special operations group should have been involved. Why didn't they intercept him in town? He was known to frequent the town. Why didn't they do any one of a number of other options that would have led to a lower risk assessment on the part of the risk to the police? That's one of the key things, obviously, that they're assessing, is what is the risk to the officers. If they've come back with a result that says send 10 officers, then they've come back high risk. And if they've come back high risk, then the decisions they made on the day don't appear to match that risk assessment. Now, again, I know more than most, but I still don't know enough to make any kind of unequivocal judgments. But I will say the whole thing stinks. It is tragic that 2 officers lost their lives. I do not condone or approve of. And you know, during COVID, I had people coming to me saying what they were thinking about doing. And I literally talked down a number of people who got into my DMs or caught up with me in different places, in different contexts, who were telling me that they were having ideas about doing X, Y, and Z. And I talked them down. I said, no, the minute you go to violence, we lose. You cannot, you must not, it's morally wrong. You will answer to God for what you choose to do in this moment. And there is no justification for it. And from a pragmatic point of view, you're not going to help. It's going to set us back, not forwards. And thankfully, each and every one of those people ended up not going through with what they'd expressed. In this case, they've pushed somebody, and that person has gone through with, obviously, Desi had obviously premeditated things around what he would do under such a scenario, and that's why he's still at large and he's out in the bush, and he's by all accounts, he can handle himself out there for a long period of time. He'd thought about this beforehand, and they pushed him to the point that he activated that plan with deadly results from 2 officers.
My frustration with a whole lot of this is, I agree with you, it does stink. And like I said, I'm mindful of this because I'm seeing it from my best mate's family's perspective as well. A death in the police force is not something that we should talk lightly about. But
no, not at all.
My frustration with this is, of course, the narrative now is sovereign citizens, and basically, like, again, I keep saying, the broad stroke of that brush, everyone's coming under that umbrella. So we had this happen, a week ago. And then, of course, they're correlating it to the August 31st march, saying that this is a march from sovereign citizens. That's not it. And my frustration is that there's not a distinction here. Desi, I only know about this from a superficial level, so I'm not one to speak on it. But by all means, he looks like he was radicalized. And I said this earlier, when you don't allow people to have a conversation about things that are affecting them because you're censoring it, you're silencing them. This is what happened during COVID. It pushes people, and it pushes people to the NSN, to sovereign citizen, and it pushes people to becoming radical Islamists and, pro-jihadists. It's the same thing either side. We have an issue right now globally, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, where those of us who disagree with what's being pushed on us aren't allowed to have a common sense discussion. It's been happening now for well over a decade, and it's kind of getting to that tinderbox kind of level where you are going to see people do things like this, and I discourage it and I condemn it, but I'm not saying that they should have done it. What I'm saying is I understand why it's happening, because for too long we've got Anthony Albanese just literally 2 days ago saying that all these people are Nazis. Okay, so every single one of those people at a march was a Nazi? Well, no, that's categorically false. But what I'm saying is, when Anthony, the leader of the country, comes out and says that, and all the politicians and the police minister coming out calling them, you know, unhinged grubs or whatever he said, you don't think that there's going to be people in that group who are already really angry? And they could be angry because they lost their business during COVID, because they lost their job because they didn't take the vaccine. They're being pushed and punished and poked and prodded and had their property rights taken away from them. They can't get a house. And they hear that comment from the leader of this country and go, you know what? Fuck you. That's how radicalization happens.
Exactly right. Now, I want to get to this comment. I'm going to bring it up briefly to say we're going to get back to this, because the best part of this week was Albo and Jacinta Allen getting chased out of Ballarat. We are definitely doing that in this show. But I want to quickly go to Found Hope, because he's been a big supporter of the show, and he's asking a genuine question here. Maybe I'm missing something, but Bob Catter is in Queensland. What does that have to do with Sydney and all the other marches and the Nazi stuff that you're on about? Seems like gaslighting. Well, Found Hope, I have some good news for you. I always bring receipts. I'm just posting into the comments now a link to my YouTube video, which was about the organisers of the march naming specifically Beck Freedom as the main person that I spoke about there. And the reason why that matters, has that posted? Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. The reason why that matters is because Beck Freedom was the individual who led the march in Sydney. She went to Sydney. She led the march there. So the person who is the subject of that video that I've just posted the link to, she's the person you marched behind. Okay. In Sydney. So I'll leave it at that. Catherine says, wrap it up, Rukshan, starting in 4 minutes. We do need to coordinate better with these guys because their work is really important and really good.
No. Avi and I are officially at war. Avi and I are at war, yes.
Okay, you know that he's like actually a soldier and he's done like actual military training. I didn't volunteer to go to war with Avi.
Have you met me? I'm Spicy Carls. I trump Avi in all ways.
Yes.
No, I have started a war with Avi and Rukshan because they know that Monday and Wednesday is our night and they have co-opted our night. So game on.
Sorry, I think that if you were to ask them, they would say that they have been doing like nightly streams since before we started the Oddcast. So
no, Avi and I sat in his studio and we were talking about it. And I said, when do you guys do your live streams? Tova and I will do the opposite night. And he's like, all right, we'll do Thursday.
Actually,
Avi, you know we had this conversation.
That does actually ring a bell. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, okay, fine. Screw him. Let's go to war.
Yeah, no, fuck him. What's a bit of competition among friends? But
can we finish on something fun? It's been
I've
heavy.
got it pulled up.
Yeah, good. All right. This was awesome. Well done, Ballarat. Proud of you. Props to you. Carly, take it away.
Okay, so just on this, guys, like we've got to look at those little small glimmers of hope. And actually, it's 2 glimmers of hope because not only was Elbow chased out of Ballarat, so was Jacinta Allen. She was booed off stage and heckled. Yeah. And that's how we do it. You know, like and can I just say, I'm so underwhelmed with Anthony Albanese's motorcade.
Oh,
I didn't know what it looked like until I saw just like one little BMW X5 like cruising past. I was like, that's it? That's what we get? In the US has the beast.
I know. Like, it's so lame.
It's embarrassing.
Right, show us this video. Come on. Don't keep us waiting. Show us the video.
All right, here we go. So, hang on. It's 2 BMWs in a Kia Carnival. There's a John Deere.
So good. All right.
Literally warms the cockles of my heart.
That was the Prime Minister, but also the Premier Jacinta Allen, same event. She was blocked from leaving by angry farmers, tractors, emergency vehicles, all the rest of it. Well done, Ballarat. Really well done. And rightly so. So I just released a video. I did an interview with David Limbrick, MP, talking about this. They have basically destroyed what was left of property rights in Victoria by passing a law that is going to just put punitive fines and punishments onto farmers if they try to deny access onto their land to people who are just going to build massive power lines and massive infrastructure. You have no rights, you have no say, you can't say no. It is just a disgusting destruction of whatever was left of property rights in Victoria.
Yeah, and look, like, I'm not trying to make light of that, but you know, those small little acts of rebellion really make me happy to see, because, you know, at the end of the day, I think I've said this multiple podcasts, but most Aussies are live and let live. Like, it takes a lot for an Aussie to really make a show of it like that. And so seeing everyone going and getting their tractors and tracing that motorcade down the street, I'm just like, that's how we do it, guys. Let them know how unwelcome they are. And, you know, every time you see Albo get up on the world stage and say his little pipsqueak speeches, that's how we rebel. Drown them out. You know, that's how we do it.
100%. All right. And on that happy note, let's wrap it up. Let's not go the full 9:30. I need my beauty sleep.
How much do you reckon we're going to get trolled by NSN the next couple of days?
They stopped already on me. They had the energy for maybe 3 days on me, and then they were gone. Like, they're just, honestly, they're kindergarten kids. They've got no stamina. But did you have a photograph you wanted to show everybody?
Oh, that photograph. I have a photo of a median strip full of weeds.
No.
I know.
Fine,
I know what you're getting at. Okay,
we'll
so
save it for Wednesday. You're going to be coy.
No.
We'll save it for Wednesday.
No, because it's funny, because I'm going to tie it into this. So I'm just sending them to my computer. So the reason Topher and I were occupied yesterday, we weren't going to march anyway, but we were actually working. And I've had some people troll me going, you were a lockdown princess. Why weren't you at the march? And I'm like, well, because I have a job and I had to work.
Yeah.
And I drove I didn't drive, to be honest. I was in charge of the playlist. But G drove us to Albury to go and see this guy named Christopher Field.
You had to do the reverse trip for a change. I do that trip every damn week.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie. I don't know how the fuck you do that. To be fair, I was like, after like 8 hours. No, I have to tell you. Okay, guys, this is funny. We're going to end the podcast on a funny note. So we drove 8 hours and I had to photograph Topher and his family and his children. So you can imagine it was a very difficult day for us. We get home, and as we're driving into our estate, we see like road closed and a whole bunch of lights. And we're like, why are the roads closed? What do you mean? It's like 10 o'clock on a Sunday. Anyway, we drive into our street and the whole neighborhood's dark. And I'm like, hang on a minute. And then G's like, the power's out. The power's out. So you might remember we were burgled and we have fortified our home. So it is literally Fort Knox. The electricity's out, where all of our doors are dead bolted and we cannot get in the garage door because there's no electricity. So we've been driving for 8 hours.
Oh, no.
We're desperate to get inside and the whole street is no power. Like, come on. So yeah, we found a way to get in. I'm not going to say what we did, but we found a chink in our armor. So now that we know, we'll also have to fix this. I'm not going to tell you what that chink is. But anyway, so that was our day. But so yesterday, photographed Topher, and my boyfriend got some BTS, which was hilarious. Took photos of inappropriate angles and stuff. But
photos of Carl's at work.
You guys, if you watched the Wednesday podcast 2 episodes ago, you'll remember that I gave Topher a shopping list, and I said to him, please go and buy like-minded things or things that look like this. And Topher went one better and literally bought everything that was on that list. So well done.
I literally just went to the shop and said, this thing. She said it came from your shop. Where is it?
I have to get this. There's a gun to my head, metaphorically speaking, right now. And so you were wearing those outfits, and you looked
the gun was only metaphorical? No one told me that.
You metaphorical. You looked very dapper, so I'm going to show people what we captured. We'll go with this one first. Here we go. So this is Topher hard at work, as you can see, behind the studio.
It's a tough life, everyone. Tough life.
It's
being
a tough
life.
What people didn't realize is
that is this. That's the exact same place. So it looks really nice back here. It's actually a dump.
Yes. And then there is, we will hide this one and I will share this one. Oh, so funny story. We were walking around Albury looking for locations. Now, this is where I like to flex as a photographer because most people will see locations and be like, oh, they're public toilets. What photo can you possibly achieve there? So I'm going to show you the photo of the location. Hang on, I got to send this to myself. Here we go. So we're walking around Albury and Topher's like, this is this architectural, beautiful building here. And over here is this like fancy railway station and whatever. I'm like,
I was trying to take it all the good bits.
And I'm like, oh, these stairs look amazing. It doesn't matter that there's poo on them. We will still be able to take a great shot. So hang on, I'm just trying to pull it in.
Poo, everybody.
To be fair, you didn't. I almost did. Hang on.
I stepped over the poo, but yeah.
You did. Hang on, there he is. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it into the
everyone's
thing.
on
There it is.
Everyone's on tenterhooks.
All right, here it is. Hang on. Add to stage. Oh, God. Stop that one. So this is the photo I took, right? Beautiful. Handsome. Dapper. Yes, we all agree? No?
I look amazing.
We disagree.
I look brilliant.
That's the photo. It's because you had a sensational photographer. So that's the photo of you, but this is what it actually looked like. Where is it? Is it so hard to do this at the same time as talking? Just don't mind me. Where is it? This one.
So 2 different people have gone straight to Bond. There you go.
That's the location. Public toilets in Albury. I was like, this looks like a great spot for a photo.
Toilets under a brutalist architecture council building. And put the actual photo back.
Okay, hang on. Remove. You can't share 2 photos at once. Did you know this?
Yes, it's frustrating. There are limitations to this platform.
Yeah, so you can't actually do it at the same time. There we go.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. You've gone with a matrix kind of tint. It's all very green.
Yeah. I was just mixing it up a little bit. Having a bit of fun.
Okay, there you go. Well, we know Cruel Intentions' weak spot now. I would accept a lolly off that man.
But guys, you're missing the point. Can we look at Topher in a suit? He's wearing a beautiful linen shirt. He's got a blazer on.
Don't you dare oppress me and my hoodies. I tell you what, actually, you know what? If I started doing the pajama party thing, do you think the NSN would have to find a new uniform? Like they'd be so embarrassed to be seen in, like, if I just released full Topher pajamas, like black onesies.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm going to end with one more photo. This one. Hang on. Look at him. He's in a shirt, guys, and chinos and nice
brown
sneakers.
shoes. Yeah.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, Photoshop. Yes. All right. We got to get out of here.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for super chats. Thank you, everyone that used the, I don't know where to point, the coffee button. Appreciate it. We love that. And we appreciate the Aussies supporting us. We'll be back Wednesday for our Wednesday episode. I think there's a lot to talk about. Wednesday, I've got some questions from our Aussies who've supported us through the coffee app. So we'll read those out on Wednesday. It's hard to do it on here because it's like there's a lot going on. It's a bit chaotic on a live.
Yeah. All righty. Anyway. Well, head over to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com, grab some Oddcast merch designed by Carly, and make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, all the above. And thank you to the 1,289 of you who joined in. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ciao.